Hello and a very good evening to all of you. I'm Sheetal and I welcome you all to today's live session, your verbal section for all the MBA entrance exam, all the major ones. So today I am going to discuss this topic with you, which is sentence correction. It plays a major role in many non-CAT exams. For example, your testnet exam. So many exams they have grammar question, and sentence correction is one of the most important ones. Today, we will try and discuss some of the major errors that you can find in a sentence to correct that sentence. So though the syllabus of grammar is vast, we all know that, and it's almost, very difficult. I won't say impossible, it's very difficult to delve deep into it and do almost all the topics. Rather, we very wisely picked some topics and some areas from where there, often error is seen from those areas. I'll be discussing some of those areas in this live with some examples, and the rest I'll be taking up in the next one. So to stay tuned if you want to score good in the grammar section of your verbal section. So without any further ado, let's start with the introduction to our sentence correction class or series, you can say. So first of all, correct expression or the correct option suggests that it should have the right grammar. The first thing that you should be looking for is the right grammar. What is the grammatical placement of the grammatical units? The placement of the grammatical units, subject, verb and object. Second, you have to look for the right structure of the sentence. Often the sentence is jumbled. The object which should have been in the end is unnecessarily put in the front with a comma with it. So this unnecessary complication should not be there. You should avoid it. Go for the right idiom. Now, idioms and phrases, they are something which you will have to learn as it is. They've been into conventional use. They stand for some meaning. They have some association. So it's very important that to purify your language more and to deal with these questions better, you start gaining some knowledge about idioms and you start learning some of the most important and most used idioms in our day-to-day life. So these things, if you can master these three things, you will be able to handle these questions. Effective expression implies that first thing, go for the option which is clear, concise and correct. So what we often think is we have this tendency of going with one such option which is incomprehensible or difficult to understand, which has a very wordy language, which is very superfluous. But that doesn't always work. Whatever the question is trying to convey, if it is conveyed through a direct and a correct sentence, you should be going for that one. Unnecessary wordiness should be avoided, absolutely. So appropriate word choice should be there. No change in original meaning, no awkwardness should be there, and no ambiguity. As in the meaning of the sentence, if it's not clear in that particular form, you won't go with that. So see, basically sentence correction question are not always broken into the pieces, and they not always ask you which part has the error. Often a sentence will be given to you and corresponding to it 4 alternate sentences, or let's say the forms of the same sentences will be given to you, and you will have to select which one is the most appropriate one. In those cases, then it becomes very important that you go with one such option which poses the minimum ambiguity, or which is the most clear of the all, and you're able to understand the meaning, right? Let's now explore some of the topics that can be asked, or on the basis of which questions can there be. Let's sit calmly and think about it. What can errors be from? The first and foremost thing that would come to our mind is subject and verb agreement. This is the very fundamental thing of English grammar. In a sentence, if your subject is plural and the verb is singular, this is the major, error that you can find. So the first thing is, no matter how complex or lengthy the sentence is, identify where is the subject, identify where is the main verb. Are they both either singular or plural or not? That is what you have to make sure of. If it's perfect, the subject and verb, they do agree with each other, then we move on to the next thing, which is subject and pronoun agreement. Now it's very simple. If I'm talking about a girl, let's say Shalina, I'll be using the appropriate pronoun, third person pronoun she, her for the person, right? She and her. I won't say they for one person, right? So this is a very basic thing we all know, that if the noun is singular, the pronoun used for it will also be singular. If the pronoun is a group of people, most probably we'll use the pronoun they. So it sounds very easy when I'm telling this to you, the rule, but what is the problem that we face is often the sentences are complex and lengthy, and we miss the point that okay, after all of these words, this they pronoun which has been used, what is it used for? We fail to identify that. It's very important that you link words with each other. You know which pronoun is used for which noun. So make sure the subject and verb, they agree with each other. Make sure the subject and pronouns agree with each other. And then comes the misplaced modifiers. Modifiers are those things, entities, phrases or words that modify something or qualify something or determine about something. We'll see to it. We'll see it at length. Then there is parallel construction. Parallel construction explains, for example, you are adding grammatical units using the conjunction and. You've been using ing verbs, all of a sudden you cannot use the ed verbs with it. So this parallelism needs to be maintained. There is redundancy. Redundancy is, for example, when we use the comparative degree for adjective or superlative degree, like smarter or the smartest, taller or the tallest, we don't use more smarter or most intelligent. Sorry, intelligent is correct. More taller or most tallest with it. It becomes redundant. You've already called the person smartest or the tallest. You don't have to use most with it. Now this is called redundancy. Unnecessarily bringing in the words that are not needed in the sentence. Tallest is already a superlative degree. Why do you have to use most with it? Right? Then the major problem that we all face. So often we are able to identify what kind of grammatical unit can come here, but then we fail to identify the meaning of the words and the contextual usage of the words. So yes, you have to have a keen eye for the diction also. So these are some of the topics where you can find the error in, or where the topics you should be very careful about. We'll be discussing some of these in this live. We'll take it slowly, right? So that things don't slip off your mind. And once we are done with it, please try to identify more examples based on the basis of this, or try to take more quizzes, I would say, so that the learning is reinforced. Moving on with the first one, subject and verb agreement. Have a look at this one. A very common error generally asked in sentence correction revolves around the subject and verb agreement. So the subject and the verb must agree in number. That is, a plural verb must have a plural subject and a singular verb must have a singular subject. As easy as that. For example, a flock of birds flying south for the winter was above us. Now, we have to see this. We are talking about flock of birds. Though birds is plural, but what is the subject here? The subject is the flock. We are talking about the whole flock as a whole entity, as one entity, right? So if it's one entity, the flock is a group, we are referring to that whole as one, it should be singular. So the subject is singular, obviously the verb will also be singular. So yes, this is right. Moving on with the next example, my group of 4th graders are so well behaved. Now what will you do? What point you will miss out here is, you will see graders, that yeah, it's plural. Are is also plural, so the subject and the verb are in agreement. But no, that's not right. Read it carefully. See, my group is the subject here. This is how you identify. We are talking about the group of the 4th graders. So group is an entity which identifies one whole thing, and it is singular. So you have to change this are into is, and that would be the right answer. I hope I've made the point clear. How do you identify the subject and the verb and see are they both plural or singular? Are they same in number or not? Moving on to the next rule. Okay, some exceptions before that. Hypothetical situation. For example, I wish if I were or was a billionaire. Now, this is a wonderful example. Now, you must be thinking, I is singular, so obviously we should be using was with it. But that is not true. It's an exception. It's a hypothetical situation. It's a conditional. For example, you are providing a condition using the word if. Whenever you put if with a sentence, you are conditioning it. You are hypothesizing something, imagining something which has not yet happened. But what are you imagining? That see, if this thing had happened, that would have been the case. So in these cases, whether the subject is singular or plural, doesn't matter. Irrespective of the number of the subject, the verb will be were only, the right choice. And this applies only to was were. It's not applicable to is, are, am. This is exception for were only. Let me give you a wonderful example to remember this. Can you recall your school days and your college days when we used to get the essay topic or the article topic? If I were a president, I would have done this. If I were a prime minister, I would have done something to control our population. So prime minister and president are also singular. Why were we using the word were with it? Did you ever think of it? Because we were hypothesizing it. It did not happen in real, we were hypothesizing. This is the same case. Hypothetical situation, we use were with the subject, no matter if the subject is singular or plural. Moving on, we have blessings and wishes like may he live long or may he lives long. So you never say lives long. Even if the subject is singular, we never say lives long. Now, I need to bring in a clarity here. When you add s or es with the subject, it becomes plural. But when you add s or es with the verb, it becomes singular. I know there are so many students who are still confused about it. Let's take an example. We say he runs. Do we ever say he run? Or do we ever say they runs? So these both are wrong. The correct answer is this one. He runs. He is singular. Runs is also singular. So always remember, if there is an s or es with the verb, it's a singular. So here, ideally, we should have been using lives here. But this is an exception. Whenever you are giving blessing or wishes, you simply use this form. May he live long. May God bless you and not may God blesses you. That would be blunderous, right? Done with this one. Past tense versus present tense. So he played, she played. See, they played. When the subject was singular, the verb was played. When the subject was plural, the verb was again played. When the subject was again plural, the verb was played. But the case changes in the present tense. In the past tense, it's simple. Irrespective of the number of the subject, we simply use ed with it or the second or the third form of the verb. But in the present tense, with the third person singular is he, male. We use plays, verb with s or es. They play. Now, as soon as I've converted the subject into the plural, the verb also changed into plural. We omitted this s, right? She plays and we play. Now, this is such a simple thing, such a simple rule, but I know almost all of us miss this point. So take this class or the session very seriously. You're going to get something informative out of it. And I know you people, you've been going for so many MBA entrance exam, even now, non-CAT exams. So this is something I believe you should be listening to carefully. Exceptions, bread and butter is or are his favorite breakfast. Now we have combinations like these, bread and butter. We have to see for other hints. Are they considered as one entity here, one kind of breakfast, or are we taking them separately? So when we are saying his favorite breakfast, obviously we are considering it into one meal. So in this case, we will say is bread and butter. Bread with butter applied on it. So it's one thing, one meal. Is his favorite breakfast. But when I say bread and butter, costlier nowadays. So costlier, they are bought separately. We all know that. So in this case, it will be are. They are costlier nowadays. His plan and idea is or are great. What should be the right answer to this one? Can anyone tell me in the chat box? His plan and idea is great or are great. Let's see who's going to answer this one. Alright. So the right answer to this one should be C. His plan and idea. So this plan or idea, we are taking it to be one thing only. We are calling it plan also. We are calling it idea also. It means our subject is one and same. This plan and idea, they are same. So we'll be saying is great. His plan and idea. Very good, Deepak. Very good. Proud of you. Yes, Abhishek, you are all absolutely right. So here it's clear that this plan and idea is one thing only we are talking about. The teacher and the leader is or are dead. What should be the right answer to this one? Let's see. Come on. Let's check your knowledge of subject-verb agreement. The teacher and the leader is or are dead. Alright, I think I should tell this now. Time's up. Right. So here we are using two articles. The teacher. There are three articles, A and the. When we use A, we are not particular about the subject we are referring to, the noun we are referring to. But here we are using the with both. Leader also, teacher also. The leader and, the teacher and the leader. It means they are two separate people. Had they been one, we should have used only one. The should have been used only once. So they are separate people. And therefore answer is are. And yes, Deepak, you are again right. So now we know that because article has been used twice with both the subjects, separate article is used. So they are separate subjects. They are two entities. But in the next one, look at this one. The teacher and leader. So this time there is no the. It means that particular teacher was a leader also in some way. So it's one and again, one and the same subject it is. This time we will be using is dead. How about this one? My friend and a doctor help or helps me. So this was about the helping verbs. Now we are moving to the main verbs. Let's see if you will be able to answer this one. Come on, Deepak, Abhishek, quickly. My friend and a doctor help or helps me. Now, for this one, my friend and a doctor. So again, we are using a different article for this doctor. It means that they are two different subjects. So here again, we have two things. Subject is not one singular, it's two. No, Deepak, think of it again. I told you. Here, the subject is plural because friend is a different person, doctor is a different person. And I told you, when you have plural subject, you have to use plural verb. And plural verbs do not take S with them. Singular verbs take S with them. So this help is a plural verb and this should be the right answer. This helps is a singular verb. Right? Yes, Abhishek. This time you back the point. So yes, you're right. My friend and doctor helps me. Now this time you are going to use helps because there is no separate article used with doctor, which means that this friend of his is a doctor also. This again, doctor and friend is the same person. So this is how you can deal with the subject-verb agreement. So when the subject and the verb are separated, for example, look at this. Find the subject and the verb. If it's a lengthy sentence, obviously you'll have to take some pain to find it out. Find the subject and the verb and make sure they agree. Ignore the words in between because they do not affect the agreement. Now this is the example you have. Look at this sentence carefully. The characters in Shakespeare's Twelfth Night lives in a world that has been turned upside down. Now what is the error here? So let's first of all identify the subject of this sentence. The characters in Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. So Twelfth Night, Shakespeare's Twelfth Night is a play, you can say a drama. This is one book. But this one book is not our subject. Our subject is the characters of that book or that play or that drama. And character clearly is plural. Where is the main verb in the sentence? What are we saying about them? We are saying that they live in a world that has been turned upside down. And we have used this word lives. Coming back to the point. If a verb has S or ES, it is singular. But the subject is plural. Let's turn it into a plural only. So this is the right answer. I hope this one is clear. With this, let's move on to some more examples. Indefinite pronouns. So single indefinite pronoun example, anyone, anybody, each, either, none uses singular verbs. Plural indefinite pronouns like few. So when I say few, it's very clear few is more than one. So it should be plural. Many, several. Now though these words are not giving you the number or the data, but then still we know that it's more than one. So these are plural indefinite pronouns and these are single indefinite pronouns. They use plural verbs. All, any, most and some depend on the situation. They can either be singular and plural. Now this is very important. All, any, most, some. These are some words that do not directly show you if they are singular or plural. You have to identify by looking at the sentence and the verbs if they are singular or plural. So yes, pronouns can pose a little bit of difficulty, but then you have to be careful about it. Right, one more example of this. Each of Sylvia Plath's bee poems use the theme of beekeeping to express aspects of the human condition. Now correct usage is each of Sylvia Plath's bee poem uses. So what have we done here? What is the subject here? Is the subject Sylvia Plath's bee poems? Because poems is clearly plural. No, this is not the subject. The subject is each. So at a time we are talking about one of her poem. Every time we are saying each, we are once referring to only one thing out of all those things. Out of all her poems, when we're saying each, we are referring to one only. So this is singular indefinite pronoun. If it is singular, the verb should also be singular. Use with an S is a singular verb. So this is the right answer to this one. Collective nouns. Example. So collective noun always pose a difficulty because collective noun, clearly refer to a group as a whole also, and sometimes it separately refers to all the members also. So how to deal with these questions? First of all, some examples of collective noun. Band, minority, majority, class, community, dozen, a group of 12. Family, though they are all a group of something, but then if we consider them as a whole, they are singular only. Public, team. So when they act as one entity, use a singular verb. It depends upon the sentence, how they are being used. So collective nouns can be singular also, plural also. If they are working as one entity, use singular verb. If when they do separate things, use a plural verb. But it is easier to reword the sentence. For example, write the members of the team instead of the team. So when you've added this word members, you're very much clear you are referring to each and every member. So for example, our team. This team has been used twice. In both the sentences I've used the word team. Let's see if you're able to deal with this one. Come on, drop in your answers, everyone. Our team is or are in its best form. And in the second one, our team is or are wearing their uniform, new uniform. Let's see. For the first one and the second one, drop in your answers again. Okay, so let's discuss this one. See, our team in its best form. So when the team is in form, obviously the team as a whole is performing, and as a whole it's in form, right? So in the first one you should be using is. Our team is in its best form. But in the second case, when we are talking about them wearing their new uniform, the uniform won't be one. The whole team won't be wearing one single uniform. They'll all be wearing their own uniforms. It's as easy as that. So in the second case, our team should be referring to each and every member of that team. So in this case, it's gonna be our. Subject pronoun agreement. Just as subject and verb needs to have an agreement, subject pronoun should also agree with each other. That is quite obvious. An antecedent is a word for which a pronoun stands. The pronoun must agree with its antecedent and number. Basically, antecedent is the noun only for which we are using a pronoun, right? Rule is, a singular pronoun must replace a singular noun and a plural pronoun must replace a plural pronoun. A phrase or a clause between the subject and the verb does not change the number of the antecedent. For example, the jar of lima beans sits on its shelf. Now by looking at this sentence, what will you see? You'll see that lima beans is plural. But is this our subject? No, we have to ignore this phrase. Our subject is that jar which is containing the lima beans. But subject to jar hai, jar is singular, right? So the jar of lima bean sits. First thing, see, we have used a singular verb. So yes, this is right. On its shelf. Now its is a pronoun again which is singular. For jar, for neuter gender or non-living things, the pronoun that we use is it, its and it. So this is a possessive pronoun for neuter gender things. So yes, this is also singular pronoun. So yes, this sentence is absolutely correct. I hope you people are getting what I'm trying to convey through this. Indefinite pronoun as antecedent. What if we have the indefinite pronouns? For example, singular indefinite pronoun antecedent takes singular pronoun reference. These are some of the examples. Each, neither, one, no one, everyone, someone, anybody, nobody, anyone, etc. are singular. So each of the student was carrying his book. So these are some of the pronouns that are considered singular. Each of the students, though there are many students, but at one point of time we are only referring to the one, each of the one student. So it should be carrying his or her book. Now coming to next topic, which is modifiers. Now modifiers are two types, misplaced modifier and dangling modifier. Modifier is again any word or any phrase that is modifying something, talking about some quality, decorating something else. It's known as a modifier. Let's see some examples of it. Misplaced. So by the word itself you can make out this modifier. It should have been placed somewhere else in the sentence, but it has been misplaced. So yes, this is one such error which is always there in most of the exams. Misplaced modifier are phrases that modify another part of the sentence. So they should be, placed with those things that they are modifying. Rather, they are placed with something else, and this creates confusion. In order to be correct, the modifying phrase must be as close as possible to what it modifies. So, for example, a wonderful example it is. See, Rahul sees India Gate jogging every morning. So, it is as if Rahul sees India Gate is jogging. Shouldn't it rather be while jogging every morning? Rahul sees India Gate. So jogging every morning, this jogging every morning is used for Rahul, not for India Gate. So this unnecessarily is creating a confusion. You have to say, while jogging every morning, Rahul sees India Gate. That is the right form of it. Similarly, in the second one, Rahul saw a dead body on his way home, as if the dead body was going home and Rahul was seeing it. Doesn't it sound like that? So this is what kind of errors misplaced modifiers can create. So while on his way home, Rahul saw a dead body. Ya fir, on his way home, Rahul saw a dead body. That would be the right form. So you have to, this on his way home. This is a phrase which is modifying Rahul. It needs to be placed with Rahul, just as we did in the previous one. This is what the modifiers should be placed with the thing they are modifying. Incorrect usage. The dealer sold the Alto car to the buyer with leather seat covers. How does the sound with leather seat covers? This is something which is talking about the quality of the car's seat. But then how does this sentence sound? As if the buyer was with the leather seat covers. Doesn't that sound funny and humorous? Ridiculous, right? The dealer sold the Alto car to the buyer with leather seat covers. Rather, we have to say the dealer sold the Alto car with the leather seat covers to the buyer. So this leather seat covers need to come with the Alto car only, because this is Alto car's modification that we are doing, not of the buyer. So this is how you have to be careful about these errors. I hope this much is clear. Now, dangling modifier. A dangling modifier is a phrase or a clause that is not clearly or logically related to the word. Misplaced modifiers could be placed and the sentence could be corrected. But dangling modifiers are unnecessary. They create ambiguity. Avoid them as much as possible, right? So unlike a misplaced modifier, these modifiers cannot be corrected simply by moving it to a different place. So this is what it is, right? And now let's practice doing two questions. We have almost done the basics of the sentence correction. I'll be touching upon other topics also in the upcoming lives. But on the basis of what we have yet learned, it's very important that we see some real examples also, some real questions also. Now is the time you people will be answering. The first question, the group danced gracefully on the country song as they moved through the lanes of Tuscan. So this underlined phrase, you have to make it as clear, as simple as possible. Select one of these four options. What do you think the right answer should be? Look for the subject-verb agreement, look for the subject and pronoun agreement, look for reducing the redundancy or avoiding the redundancy, and then you will find your right answer. Unnecessarily don't go with the difficult ones. Drop in your answers, everyone. Even if you are watching the video afterwards, please pause it at this point of time and think of the answer. Yes, Deepak, Abhishek. Alright, so let's have a look at it now. The group, first of all, the group is our subject. So group is a collective noun which is considered singular here. The group danced gracefully. So they were dancing as a whole, right? The group was dancing. The group danced gracefully on the country song as they moved through the lanes. First problem, why are we using they? When the subject is singular, shouldn't the pronoun also be singular? So we have to use a singular pronoun here. First thing. As they moved through the lanes of Tuscan. So rather we will be saying as it moved through the lanes of Tuscan. So this is the right answer. If you look at the rest of the options, as they were moving through the Tuscan lanes. Why are we unnecessarily changing the verb? So when we've used danced, shouldn't again we be using a verb with ed form, the third form, right? So this is what parallelism is. When you are using the ed form of verbs, how can you all of a sudden use the ing forms of verbs? So on the basis of this, it can be eliminated. Moving themselves through the lanes of Tuscan. Now, isn't it redundant? Moving themselves, doesn't that sound strange? So this is unnecessary wordiness. Again, we can eliminate this one. As they moved through Tuscan lanes. So Tuscan lanes is fine, but again, as they moved, we are talking about group. Group is singular. The pronoun that we can use with it is its or it. So yes, the answer is third one. Moving on to the last question for today. Try your luck in this one. Computers began as tools of business and research designed to automate tasks such as math and information retrieval. But it is today a tool of personal communication, connecting us not only to information but also to one another. Now, one thing that you need to notice here is examiner is playing very smart. He is given a sentence which is way too lengthy, way too full of information. But still, it's not difficult. You just have to identify two things first, subject and the verb. Moreover, they've already underlined as it is today a tool. So you don't have to take that extra pain of identifying where the error is. Consider this phrase, look at the context, understand the context, and then find out the answer. First of all, find out the subject. So what is the subject here? The subject here is computers. Computers with an S, which means it is plural. So clearly, subject is plural. The verb should also be plural. The pronoun should also be plural. But in this phrase, it is today a tool. Is it referring to just one computer? No, we are referring to all the computers and the devices related to it. So this should be what? As they. So you have to use a plural pronoun here, something like they. Now let's see which rephrasing would better fit in here. It is today a tool. Again it, so we can eliminate this one. Today this is a tool. So this again is singular. Which today it is a tool. Doesn't make any sense, grammatical sense. Today they are tools. Now see, they has also been used, a plural pronoun and a plural verb also. So yes, this is the perfect answer, no redundancy. This was the redundant one. So the answer to this one is D. Right? I hope now it is clear what are sentence correction question, what type of question can they pose you. And I know it really becomes difficult when it comes to grammar. We all together give it up. But it's inevitable, you cannot escape it, trust me. And it is not even impossible or that difficult if you are working wisely towards it. If you see the previous year paper and just jot down the topics from which they ask you question. Just clarify your rules about those. Just go through the rules of those particular topics, practice some question, and you will definitely be able to do it. And well, we are also here to practice all those questions together and to give you all the hints and the right rules to suggest you how can you go with it. So if you like the video, do not forget to like, share and subscribe it. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to write it in the chat box. So up until the next live, be happy, stay healthy, keep studying, keep shining and keep smiling. Thank you.